Hey, we're back on the Morning Brew. We're live today in downtown Albuquerque. I'm Larry Ahrens, along with co-host Aaron Muffaletto. Real pleasure to welcome to the big round table here on the Morning Brew, former Lieutenant Governor Diane Denish, who's with us today. Diane, it is great to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, but nice to see you back in the game a little bit.
Back in the game.
That's right. That's right. And it's great to be here and the show's just been great. I've been watching it on and off over the last few weeks.
Fantastic.
And I'm really excited about this kind of local programming that talks about things. So.
Well, I think you get the flavor of what we're trying to do here.
Right.
We want to build this community. We want to show off this state, and we want to do it in a real positive way.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And Aaron's hanging in there too.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
What have you been doing since all that campaigning and stuff? What have you been up to?
I took about a year, took a little sabbatical.
Good for you.
But it's been, as one of my journalist friends says, minding your own business is really hard. So the last year I've been working on some early childhood development and investment issues, and which is why I wanted to come on the program and visit with you about it. Working with the business community, educating people about why we need to invest more in the first 5 years of our kids' lives. And it's been a lot of fun. It's kept me connected to the business community and the policy community and the legislative, the lawmaker community. So it's been great.
Right. And I have seen, I actually went to a meeting, oh gosh, it was last year, and it did talk a lot with the businesses and the early childhood. And why is that so vital to have the businesses involved with the early childhood?
Well, let me just, I brought a few slides to kind of set the stage that I'd just like to run through, if we could pull those up.
Yeah, let's show the first one.
Yeah, the first slide is about the public investment as it relates to brain development. It's opposite as it should be. A child's brain develops almost completely by the time they're 3 years old, but we don't really invest any money in kids until they're 16, 17, 18. The next slide shows us that the annual return on this investment is better than anything we'd get from Wall Street. It's a 10% return over time for every dollar.
Who's getting 10% anywhere?
That's right. That's right. So each dollar invested, depending on the area, could be a $7 to $12 return on an annual basis. That's a business proposition for the country. And then the third one is what we deal with here in New Mexico, and that is we're at the bottom.
Right.
We're at the very bottom of the list on so many things because of poverty, because of a lot of things. And so what I've been working on is on that last slide is how can we find a way to really invest in it? New Mexico has the second largest land grant permanent fund strictly dedicated to education in the country. Right. It's about $12.5 billion now. And we don't spend really very much of that.
Is this the so-called rainy day fund?
It is. But what people forget is if we had let's say we had a tornado right here in downtown Albuquerque.
Right.
We couldn't use that money. It's for education only. So the severance tax fund, which is a separate fund, which is about $5 or $6 billion, we could use that, or we could use state reserves, but we couldn't use the land grant permanent fund.
Right.
It's not for disasters, but it could be for the disaster of a low graduation rate, kids who can't read by the third grade.
Yeah, I would say that disaster is happening
that disaster
on
is
an
happening.
ongoing basis.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, most people don't know that.
And that's really what the last year's been about for me. I've had the pleasure of working with St. Joe's Community Health, which works a lot in Birth to 5, some of the coalition, and talking to business leaders about the permanent fund. It's a constitutional amendment. The voters, and one reason I like this station is because by the people.
Yeah.
The Constitution, if it's ever revised for anything, has to be revised by the people and by the voters. But it does have to get on the ballot. That's what happens. But what we came to believe over this last year, not only is that one strategy, but maybe there's another one. And we want business people involved in that discussion in Albuquerque and across New Mexico. Like, what is another possible funding stream long-term that might really invest in 0 to 5, home visiting, pre-K, diagnostic tests for kids with eye problems, ear problems, autism, quality teacher development for early childhood. Those are the things that are part of 0 to 5.
Right. So then are you proposing to businesses to invest in the permanent fund or a different fund?
We're proposing for them to be champions for children and to come out and say, we want to help make this happen. That's what we want. We're not asking people to spend their money. We're asking them to help us create a business movement to support either putting this on the ballot or finding another mechanism.
Right.
We don't have the people that are in some other states, like the Buffett family in Nebraska, which created Educare. George Kaiser in Oklahoma, who spends $100 million a year in early childhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Florida's used taxes. San Antonio's used taxes. We don't think that's the right mechanism for New Mexico. So what we're saying is step up and help us find a solution where we can invest and think past next year and next year. Think 10 years, 20 years down the road.
Well, the business connection with especially some of the larger employers, they look for, if they're going to move here or stay here, they look for an educated workforce and a good school system and improvements in education. And if they don't have that, they're likely to either go somewhere else or not locate here at all.
Right. I just spoke to a young man who moved his business here from Houston, and his wife happened to be there, and they were talking about they have 2 young children.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you said. The first thing they did was they looked at their education, and she said, you must be crazy, their education system. So their children are still 0 to 5, and so she had to figure out, and it's all being done in a private setting. Well, that should be available to everybody. Here's an interesting statistic. Right now, New Mexico spends about $250 per child on 0 to 5. We spend $35,000 a year on a prisoner.
Yeah.
So we want to change that dynamic.
Yeah.
And it is about changing thinking and changing a culture and thinking about long-term investment. And so as a private citizen, I've really taken it on as an effort that I want to continue to be involved in. I have, believe it or not, something else happened over the last 2 years. My grandchildren multiplied, so now I have 5 of them.
Oh, wow.
And I had,
How about you?
I think I had 3 when I left office. Now I had 5. And so I watch it, on a regular basis, and it's fun to watch. But I also know that I want every child to have some of the advantages that they have.
So is that what kind of sparked your interest in early childhood development?
Well, really my time in office. We launched the effort for pre-K. We got the pre-K bill passed. When we first passed it, we said we were serving 20% of 4-year-olds. Today, we're still serving 20% of 4-year-olds because the funding has been, up and down. We want consistent long-term funding for voluntary 4-year-old pre-K. But if you travel New Mexico enough, you really see that much of the money that we spend, both in education and social services, is repairing what we forgot to do at the beginning.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and it's a benefit to taxpayers. It's a better use of our tax dollars. So, it's hard to let that go. You might leave office, but it's hard to leave that passion behind you.
So you probably have a willing audience with the business community. Do you have a willing audience with the legislature?
Well, this year we made it all the way through the House. We made it all the way to the Senate Finance Committee, and we couldn't get a vote there. The Senate Finance Chair is very protective of the permanent fund.
You must know some people there.
Yeah. But, let me say it's been I want to say Larry Larrañaga in the House has been a huge supporter of home visiting. Mo Maestas, some of the educators.
Very bipartisan effort is what you're saying.
Bipartisan thinking. And everybody likes to say, Larry, they're really for early childhood.
Sure.
What we're trying to do is push them to the next level and say, let's really do something about it. Yeah. And some of the people that are most passionate in the legislature are probably leaving. Lucky Varela hadn't said he's leaving, but he's considering it.
He's making noises.
Yeah. Kiki Saavedra announced his retirement. But Patty Lundstrom, who will be moving up in that legislative finance arena, she's very much, she made the motion to pass it out of Legislative Finance Committee when it was in the House, or appropriations. So it's been, but I'm not a lobbyist. I don't go up there and bang on their doors. I try to work
Just
every
influence
day a little bit
in a different way.
and work with business people to voice their opinion about it.
Right.
It's investinkidsnow.org.
If people want more detail than the 4 slides I showed, they can go through a whole lot of information, investinkidsnow.org. That's part of the St. Joe's Community Health effort and a number of about 40 organizations.
And if people want to connect with you, they can go to DianeDenish.com.
They can.
How about
They
that?
can. And they can email me at diane@dianedenish.com, and I'll try to pay attention somewhere between 10 and 2 in the morning.
Well, it's
You know?
great to see you so involved in the community.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's amazing to see people
So-
invested in the children.
Yeah.